They do not, repeat not, have food like this in a sewer.
A sewer rat? Who? What? How did you get here?
I don't know. 1 minute, I'm in the pub. Next thing you know, whoosh, it's a burst water main. Off I go, shooting up the pipes, and, well, here I am.
Hi, I have a plunger. We can shoot you right back.
Do you like seafood?
Can I call you a cab?
Blah! Seafood! Get it? Ha ha! Have you got a TV?
Well, yes.
Say no more!
No. Leave that. No! No, don't touch anything.
Would you look at the size of that monster?
Oh!
Careful, mate. Those aren't chocolate buttons. Hey! Oh,
It's the match of the century.
that final.
The FIFA World Cup final. England,
Yes!
Germany.
Boom!
Live this Sunday. Be there.
This place is great. I'm staying here forever.
What?
Well, hello, everyone. If you have made it this far, you've made it to the end of our Everybody Always Connection study. I'm trusting it's been a good experience for you, trusting you've been growing in your relationship with God, but also in your relationship with the people in your group. And maybe some of your groups have been going so well, you find yourself saying, I'm staying here forever. When King David was in a really good place, he wrote Psalm 27. He wrote about how his faith in God makes him feel safe, removes his fear, and gives him confidence to face the days ahead. Here's what David writes in verse 4. The one thing I ask of the Lord, the thing I seek most, to live in the house of the Lord all the days of my life. I think a lot of times we assume David is writing about the temple in Jerusalem when he writes this. But remember, David only dreamed of building the temple. It was his son Jonathan who actually built the temple, and that was after David's death. So when David talks about the house of the Lord, he's talking about more than the physical structure where people might gather for worship. Jesus says, wherever two or more are gathered in my name, there I am with them. So wherever you have been meeting for your small groups, in a sense, it's the house of the Lord. Even a Zoom room can be the house of the Lord. We are all wired for connection with one another and with our God. And when we experience the fullness of life that comes through these connections, it's something that causes people to say, I'm staying here forever. The one thing I want is to be in the house of the Lord. Now, of course, there are reasons why loneliness and disconnection are on the rise and are an increasing problem in our society. One of the reasons is we don't really know how to deal with the difficult people in life, at least not in healthy ways. So we're going to close our Everybody Always study by talking about what it looks like for us to love even the difficult people. If I were to ask you to picture in your mind's eye someone you might describe as difficult, I'm guessing it would not take most of you very long to have that person in your mind. Sometimes it's just people who are different from us. Maybe it's a different personality, different temperament, a different way of viewing the world. I wonder if sometimes we think just because somebody has a different personality, that means they're wrong, but most of the time they're not wrong, they're just different. They're not sinning in their personality if their personality is different from ours. But sometimes the difficult people in our life are difficult because of sin. Jesus actually talks about this in Matthew chapter 18. If another believer sins against you, go privately and point out the offense. Matthew 18, verse 15. So here's the first thing I want you to notice. Jesus is talking about correcting sin in the church. The second thing I want you to notice is the phrase, go privately. Don't talk about the other person's sin with your small group. Don't talk about it with your coworkers. Don't talk about it on social media. And don't post passive-aggressive articles about how bad people are who do the exact same thing this person has done to you. Instead, the wisdom of Jesus is go to the person. Have a face-to-face, one-on-one conversation. Now, part of the bad news is Christians have a reputation for being judgmental. And in large part, we have earned our reputation because we don't follow Jesus' instruction here very well. Christians spend a lot of time pointing out the sin and trying to correct sinful behavior of people who are not followers of Jesus. Think about that for a second. It doesn't make a whole lot of sense when you think about it. Why would you expect someone who is not following Jesus to act like they are following Jesus? So for Jesus, step one in dealing with difficult people is to have this private one-on-one conversation. If that doesn't move to a place where the issue gets resolved, then you move to step two, which is to bring others into the conversation. And if that still doesn't work, then you go to step three, bring the problem to the leaders of the church. Some real practical, step-by-step instructions Jesus gives us for dealing with difficult people in the church, but historically the church has followed Jesus very poorly, and we've fallen into a couple of ditches that we want to avoid. One of the ditches is we get way too legalistic and we allow the tiniest thing to become a matter of church discipline, and there's no grace whatsoever. We just are kicking people out of the church and saying you don't belong here. We don't want that. The other ditch is to avoid Matthew 18 altogether. And instead of having the crucial conversations we need to have, we start gossiping and we talk about people behind their back and relationships suffer and nothing changes. Now, obviously, this is a really big topic and people could write books about it, and a lot of people have. Here's what I want to focus on today. How do we develop a mindset that helps us learn to love even the difficult people? In Philippians chapter 2, Paul writes about having the mindset of Jesus. It's the mindset of humility. Jesus is God, but he humbles himself to become a human, to become one of us, to get into the right kind of mindset for dealing with difficult people. We got to learn to be humble like Jesus. And in Philippians 2, Paul talks about what that kind of humility looks like. Here's verse 3. Be humble, thinking of others as better than yourselves, Paul writes. And Paul actually uses the same word here that Jesus uses in Luke 22. In Luke 22, Jesus is talking about the upside-down nature of the kingdom of God, how in the kingdom of God, the leader is actually the chief servant. And so Paul uses that to say the way we think about others actually leads or directs conversations. If we think highly of someone, the conversation will go one way. If we do not think highly of someone, the conversation often goes a different direction. Our mindset is the starting place when it comes to dealing with and loving difficult people. And if you are like me, you don't particularly like this verse. What do you mean I'm supposed to think of others as better than myself? What if I'm better than they are? My wife Wendy and I went to Florida with some friends a couple of summers ago. And we were in the airport waiting for our flight, and I needed to use the restroom. Well, I was not the only one in the restroom, and the other guy did not wash his hands. So after I washed my hands, I went back to sit by Wendy, and I pointed to Dirty Hands Dude. And I told her the story, and I said, I sure hope we don't sit anywhere close to that guy when we get on the plane. And Wendy said, Scott, be humble, thinking of others as better than yourself. No, she didn't. What she said was, he's probably doing the best he can. I said, what are you talking about? Dirty Hands Dude is definitely not doing the best he can. If he was doing the best he can, he would have washed his hands. And then she reminded me of a chapter in the book Rising Strong by Brené Brown. Chapter 6 of that book is titled Sewer Rats and Scofflaws. Brené Brown talks about watching a movie, Flushed Away. The clip we watched at the beginning of this talk is from that movie. It's about a very proper, well-mannered mouse named Roddy, who is the pet of a family in London. And when that family goes away on vacation, Roddy's having the time of his life. Dresses up in a tuxedo, drives the Barbie car, pretends like he's James Bond. His grammar is perfect. He keeps everything spotless and organized. And then the sewer backs up. And a sewer rat named Sid finds himself in Roddy's world. Sid's big belly is showing and his jeans are torn. He's wearing a ripped leather jacket, and it just gets worse. He has dirty toenails, he burps, he's constantly sniffing around for cheese and gorging himself on sausages. He gets stains on the couch. Sid, the sewer rat, ruins everything. I wonder if you have any sewer rats in your life. A difficult person, someone who just ruins things. When they are around, you find yourself wishing they were somewhere else. If you get invited somewhere, but you hear your sewer rat is going to be there too, you don't even want to go anymore. Now it's not going to be any fun at all. What if? What if we could develop a different mindset for dealing with the sewer rats in our life? Philippians 2 verse 3 is a good starting place. Be humble, thinking of others as better than yourself. This is the mindset we need to love difficult people. Brene Brown is a researcher, so she went to work on this question of dealing with difficult people, and she actually wondered, should we always assume positive intent? That's one of our catchphrases here at Hope. Always assume positive intent. Don't assume people are trying to make your life difficult. But she uses different language, and she asked the question, do you think in general people are doing the best they can? Just let that question sink in a little bit. Do you believe in general people are doing the best they can? I've spent a lot of time thinking about this question, and let me tell you how I would answer the question for myself. I do think the people I like are doing the best they can, but I don't think the difficult people in my life are. Maybe I think they are slackers, or maybe I think they're trying to take advantage of me. Maybe I think they are needy, but I do not think the difficult people in my life are doing the best they can. I don't give them that benefit of the doubt. Brene Brown has interviewed hundreds of people asking them this question, and part of what she's discovered is it doesn't really matter if people are doing the best they can or not. What matters is our mindset. See, when we are convinced people are not doing the best they can, eventually we start to view ourselves the same way. Or to put it in another way, when we do not extend grace to others, it makes it really tough to extend grace to ourselves. If you want a Bible verse for this one, how about the Golden Rule, where Jesus says, do to others whatever you would like them to do to you. This is the essence of all that's taught in the law and the prophets. I mean, did you remember that Jesus is the one who came up with the Golden Rule? Jesus says this is actually a way of loving people, treating people the way you want them to treat you. Now, here's the painful reality none of us really want to think about. We certainly don't want to talk about it. You are someone's sewer rat. You are someone's sewer rat. When they hear you're going to be at the party, now they don't want to go. There's someone that looks at the way you do your job and they think you're not doing your best. There's someone who looks at the way you parent, or the way you clean your house, or the way you manage your money, or your lack of grammar on social media, who knows what. And here's the rest of the ugly truth. The most difficult person to love is yourself. And there are days, aren't there, when you feel like no matter how hard you try, you just can't get it right. Can't get it right in your marriage, can't get it right with your kids, can't get it right at work, can't get it right at school, can't get it right with your friends, can't get it right with God. And maybe you find yourself crying out to God in frustration, Lord, I'm doing the best I can here. I wonder what you think of this idea. We don't think everyone's doing the best they can until we want someone to think we did the best we could. Let me say that again. We don't think everyone's doing the best they can until we want someone to think we did the best we could. I mean, you may think it's ridiculous to believe anyone's doing the best they can. I mean, we can always do better, right? I'm just telling you, if you start listening and paying attention, there will come a point when someone will say something about you. There's some way that they viewed you as failing, and what you're going to want to say to them is, I did the best I could. If we could all have this mindset of humility, loving even the difficult people would become a whole new reality. It would free us to extend grace. Now, just to be clear, having a mindset of humility and extending grace does not mean that Matthew 18 no longer applies. Of course, we still want to follow Jesus' lead as we deal with difficult people. But a mindset of humility can absolutely change the tone of our conversations. We still get to speak the truth, but a mindset of humility helps us speak the truth in love. It can be a game changer, and who knows, it might even change the way you view the sewer rats in your life. Roddy cannot stand Sid the sewer rat, and so Roddy tries to flush Sid back into the sewer, but instead Roddy gets flushed away. He ends up in a city, in the sewer. He meets a girl named Rita. They're trying to learn how to trust each other. They are difficult people for one another, and it's hard work. They don't assume the other is someone they would ever want to hang around. And so I want you to watch this scene as they try to learn to trust each other.
Rita, look. I'm sorry, all right? I was wrong, and I think we should just put it behind us.
Okay. I suppose I can put it behind me.
This is such an overreaction. Rita, you can't just leave me here on a dock up the creek without a...
You're getting everything you deserve. Sneaking around, eavesdropping on other people's conversations.
I was not sneaking around.
Right.
I say, you can't really intend to just strand me like this. You're not that heartless. Okay, maybe you are. Look, if you're trying to teach me a lesson, consider it taught. I'm on a dock, begging.
Ice cold Rita, never did I meet a girl who was half so cruel. I offered her a jewel, but she left me stuck, stranded on a dock. What a shoddy thing to do to Roddy. Me, that's Roddy St. James of Kingston.
Poor, poor Roddy flushed out his own party. Rita, can't you find it in your heart
to help him?
How mean can one rat be? Why, it's called Rita. Won't you be sweeter to me?
Oh!
Am I forgiven?
No. I was just afraid you'd sing another verse.
Rita, I wasn't eavesdropping. I swear to you.
Oh, really? What were you doing then, Roddy?
Well, I was actually just watching you with your family and thinking how lucky you were.
When Sid and Rita first meet each other, there's all kinds of things causing them to think this is not a relationship where connection would be a good thing. And maybe that's how you felt at the beginning of this group experience. Or maybe you're with friends that you've been friends with for a long time, but there was a moment, there was a tipping point early on in the relationship when you had to decide, is this someone I'm going to be able to trust or not? As you get into your groups and as you talk about what you've been reading about this week, it might be a good thing for you to talk about how do you make that step of trusting people, even the difficult people to love.